My first day at my new job was coming to an end and my boss called me into his luxurious office to have a word with me. I didn't know what it was about, but I felt confident that I had gotten off to a good start with all my responsibilities. "Hey, I just wanted a quick word with you," he said, looking up at me with his handsome smile from his chair. "Sure," I said, sitting down in one of the two chairs in front of his desk. He slightly raised his right hand off the desk and said, "Carol, I know you are new here and you did a great job for your first day, but I need a couple of things from you." "Sure, Mr. Boyd," I said, nervously fidgeting my hands on my lap where he couldn't see them. "First off, don't ever sit down or stand up unless I tell you to," he said, wiping his smile from his face. "I apologize, Mr. Boyd," I said, feeling my face redden with embarrassment. "And second, don't come in with such an outfit tomorrow," he added. "Okay, how should I come?" I asked nervously. "I mean, how should I dress, sir?" "Dress like the secretary of Mr. Boyd," he said, referring to himself in the third person. Feeling objectified and somewhat ashamed, I said, "Okay, I understand." Bringing out his smile again, he said, "Good, you may now stand up and leave." I managed to hold back my tears but only until I got to my car in the parking lot. It was my dream job to work for Mr. Boyd, but I would have never expected for him to be one of those types of bosses. He seemed so different from the outside, but I knew I had to meet his every demand or else I would be looking from the outside again. "It's no big deal," I thought, wiping my tears. "Just follow his orders and keep the job." Before going home to my husband, I stopped at a high-end store to upgrade my wardrobe to something fitting of the executive secretary of Mr. Boyd. I purchased several pencil skirts, long-sleeve and short-sleeve tops, blazer jackets. When I got home, my hubby saw me enter with the shopping bags and asked, "Hey, did you go to work or just shopping?" Both," I answered, feeling upset by his stupid question. "Just had to get new clothes." "Alrighty then," he said, then returned his eyes to the Monday night football game. "Hope it wasn't too expensive." I rolled my eyes in annoyance as I thought, it's good to have my own money. My own money. The following morning, I dressed in a white long-sleeve top and a black pencil skirt. I felt sexy and that gave me a needed boost of confidence for my second day at the job. "Trying to impress your little boss, huh?" my husband asked from our bed. "I have to dress the part," I said, looking at him while I put on my heels. "Some of us have jobs to keep." "Hey, I'ma get the rock band thing going pretty soon," he said. "You're not in your 20s anymore," I reminded him. "Yeah, whatever," he said, getting out of bed. I arrived at the office earlier than any other employee and was surprised to see Mr. Boyd already working in his office. "Good morning, sir," I said as I walked by his open door. "Morning, Carol," he said, making no attempt to hide the fact he was checking me out from head to toe. "You look great." With a bright smile, I said, "Thank you, sir." "Here is your stack for the day," he said, pointing to several folders on top of his desk. As I walked towards his desk, he stood up and moved to the side to watch me pick up the folders. "Carol, put them back down," he ordered. I did as he said and looked at him expectantly. "Pick them up again," he said. I picked up the folders again and returned my eyes to him. "1 second," he said, then walked towards the door to close it. "Put them down one more time." I placed the folders back on his desk and waited for further instruction from my boss. "Both hands on the desk," he said as he walked up to me. "Turn around and place your hands on the desk." Feeling his eyes on me, I turned around and placed my hands nervously on the edge of his desk. "Take the folders and get to work," he instructed. I took the folders and left his office with a million thoughts racing through my head. I knew there was no other option but to obey his every word if I wanted to be his successful secretary. Deep inside of me, I felt the excitement of such a boss and secretary relationship. It was my greatest fantasy to be a submissive woman, but not a single soul knew about it. I went into the restroom and checked my reflection in the mirror to see what Mr. Boyd was talking about. On Wednesday, I dressed similarly to the previous day, but this time it was a blue short-sleeve top, a white pencil skirt. When I arrived at work in the morning, Mr. Boyd again had me pick up the folders from his desk while he delighted his eyes with the sight of my backside. "Much better, Carol," he said, getting close to me from behind. "Show me." "Sir, I don't understand," I said nervously. "Sure you do," he said. Fighting my desires, I said, "No, I can't." Immediately, he pushed my face down towards the desk to bend me over. "Lovely, Carol," he said before letting me go. I turned to look at him with my reddened face. "I don't play around," he said, gently moving my auburn hair out of my face. "My secretary is my #1 priority." Feeling entirely under his control, I said, "Yes, sir." "Thank you. Do not disobey me," he said with emphasis. "It's already your second strike." I looked at him and simply nodded my head. "Dinner at 9 tonight," he said, returning to his chair. "Okay, I'll make the reservations," I said. "For Mrs. Benson, right?" He smiled and replied, "You and I, Carol." "Oh, okay," I said with a surprised look. "It's already reserved at Noriega's," he added. I went about the day's work, but my focus was disrupted at times by the thought of Mr. Boyd's behavior. It was surprising and exciting that he had planned a dinner date with me seemingly out of nowhere. That afternoon, I left work and made a shopping trip for the third day in a row. I had to impress my boss at work, but I perfectly understood that I had to go beyond that outside of work. I spent nearly an hour picking out a dress, but, in the end, I was sure I had made the right choice. I quickly headed home to get ready for my dinner date, but I was met by my husband in the living room. He was wearing his rock band outfit and looked about ready to go on stage to perform. "What's going on?" I asked, placing the shopping bag on the couch. "What's going on with you?" he asked. "I texted you about my band's performance tonight." "What?" I exclaimed, pulling out my phone to check my texts. "Oh, I must have missed it." Visibly upset, he said, "Yeah, no shit. I can't go," I said. "Are you kidding me?" he asked. "What is more important?" I have to go to dinner with my boss," I said, shaking my head. "I wasn't expecting this tonight." "Easy, cancel it," he said before walking away. Disappointed in the situation, I said, I can't do that." A couple of minutes later, I was upstairs in our bathroom and finishing my makeup and hair when my husband walked in. "Really?" he asked with one of those pissed-off smiles of his. "What?" I asked. "You never dress like this for me," he angrily said. "Don't start this," I said. "You know this job is important." "And on this night of all nights," he added, shaking his head. I got the dress out of the bag and removed the tag before putting it on. I topped it off with my favorite strappy heels and went downstairs to face my husband. "That's some bullshit and you know it," he said, looking at me. "I'll make it up to you," I said, placing my hand on his shoulder. "Good luck tonight." "Okay, whatever," he said, then walked away. Just as I was about to follow my husband, I heard a car honking outside our house. I hesitated for a second before going to look out the window to see who it was. To my surprise, Mr. Boyd had sent someone to pick me up and take me to our dinner date. "Whatever," I thought as I grabbed my purse. "I can't please everybody." I arrived at Noriega's on time and Mr. Boyd was already waiting for me in what looked to be the most expensive private table at the place. "Wow," he said, standing up to greet me. "Wow for yourself," I said, looking at him in his black suit. We sat down and surprisingly to me, we only talked about work for a few minutes. He instead focused on me and my journey to my current position as his secretary. It wasn't fake interest either, I truly felt that he cared about what I had to say. It was the type of attention that I long craved and that had disappeared from my marriage. After the expensive dinner, I was feeling a little too relaxed from the wine, and I didn't object when he offered to take me home. "Well, here we are," he said when we arrived outside of my house. "Thank you," I said. "For the lovely dinner and everything." "I see your husband isn't home," he said. "Yeah, he's performing with his band tonight," I said. He walked me to the door and added, "Heck, I'll do it." "Do what?" I asked, fumbling the keys in my hands. We entered the house, and as soon as the door closed we began kissing in the dark. Like two reunited lovers, we quickly went upstairs. "Can you guess what happens next?" "See you at work tomorrow," he said. I only managed to answer, It wasn't until I heard the front door close that I regained a feeling of normalcy. I gotta try to make it out to the show, I thought. I quickly got dressed and fixed my makeup and hair before leaving the house. Luckily, the event wasn't too far away, and I could possibly make it in time to see the finale. When I arrived, I could hear the announcer introducing my husband's band onto the stage. My dress seemed to attract every man's attention on my way to the front of the medium-sized crowd, but all I cared about was that my husband spotted me out. Sure enough, he saw me and smiled just before the music started playing. A strange feeling of guilt came over me as I realized how crazy the night had gone. It was good that I had made it out in time to see my husband and his band perform, because he was trying to impress me and make me happy. The contrasting thing from my end was that I was standing there in the dress I had bought to impress my boss. My thoughts were broken by the cheers of the crowd, and even though I hadn't paid attention to the performance, I joined in by clapping my hands. I met my husband behind the stage and gave him a congratulatory hug. "Y'all were great," I said. "Thanks, honey," he said. "Glad you came by." When we got home, I repeated what I had done with my boss. I didn't know if it was guilt or excitement, perhaps a mixture of both. I belonged to Mr. Boyd and had no intention of stopping what we had just started, but I had to keep my husband at least somewhat content for the time being. The things Mr. Boyd was able to get out of me in a few days far outweighed what my husband had done in years. My cheating sides had just come to life, and they were going to be nurtured by my boss.